that I want to hit on. So, guys, today's training that Jimmy and I are going to be covering is Field Underwriting, and really the title is Field Underwriting Simplified. And and I know we have a lot of new agents on the call, and Jimmy, I know you hear this all the time. It's just like, well, which carrier do I lead with? Because it can be confusing. Because if you're getting contracted with us, you may be getting contracted with 4, 5, 6 carriers, and I understand it can be a little bit confusing when you first get started. What we're going to do, the idea of today is just kind of dumb it down and simplify it. And what I tell agents, my process is just stick with one carrier in the beginning. As an example, we're going to use, for new agents, a lot of times I'll recommend Mutual of Omaha because I think they have probably the easiest application. You can get an immediate decision right there on the spot. They pay quickly, so it's a great way for agents to get started. You get a lot of name recognition with Mutual of Omaha. But when I'm in the home, and we're not going to get into the whole in-home presentation. So this part is simply about figuring out what product is going to be the best fit for your client. I'm going to jump right into the health question. So at this point, we're already assuming we've done the warm up, we've done the pre-sale folder, we've done we've even done the flip chart. Now, after the flip chart, you're transitioning into the health questions as far as getting them qualified. These are the questions that I like to ask. Okay, so Jimmy, what I'll do is let me just role play with you. Okay?
Sure.
If that's okay. So we've already done the flip chart. Jimmy says, yeah, this is great. So, well, Jimmy, the next thing let me just ask you a few simple health questions. This way I can determine which program is going to be the best fit for you. Jimmy, I know this question may seem a little bit silly. I'm just required to ask you, but do you currently reside in a nursing home?
No.
See, so he's going to chuckle, or you can say, Jimmy, do you currently reside in a nursing home, or are you hospitalized? Of course, you can see that. He's going to chuckle a little bit. Now you're going to get into the real health questions. Now, a couple of different ways you can approach this one. We're going to assume in this case, Jimmy is let's say he's a 55-year-old male, and he appears to be what is in good health. Okay, from just my his height, his weight is good. Just his overall appearance looks good. I'm going to ask the question, have you ever had a heart attack, stroke, cancer, or diabetes? I'm not going to ask in the last 2 years. Here's the reason why. Is because if Jimmy is under the age of 65, as an example, and he's the perfect specimen of good health, potentially he may qualify for something maybe a notch above a final expense product. He may be a candidate for a GUL Express, which is a permanent life insurance policy through Mutual of Omaha, which is rated a little bit higher, but you could have never had an episode like a heart attack, stroke, or cancer. So I just think asking the question, have you ever, just kind of gives you a better picture of Jimmy's health. So I'm going to phrase it like this. After I get the nursing home response, I get the little chuckle. Well, Jimmy, have you ever in your lifetime, have you ever had a heart attack or stroke? I'm going to let him answer those questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Which one? A heart attack or a stroke? Or both?
I had a heart attack.
Go ahead. I love the clients that have had everything. Yeah, I had a heart attack, had a stroke. Which one was it, Jimmy? Was it a heart attack or a stroke?
A heart attack.
Oh, okay, a heart attack. And approximately, how long ago was that?
Oh, about 5 years ago.
Oh, wow. How are you doing now, Jimmy?
Oh, I'm doing fine. I'm exercising and uh, maintaining my diet and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. So when you had that heart attack, what did they end up doing? Did you have to go in for any type of surgery?
They put a stent and they put me on some medication.
Okay, so you didn't have to have open heart surgery or anything like that, just a stent.
Yeah,
Do you remember how many stents they put in?
I don't remember. Just
Got
one, I
it.
think one. Yeah,
Okay. And then you said you're currently they're putting you on medication. Do you recall what that medication is?
I think it was Plavix.
So like a blood thinner,
Yeah,
keep things going good. And are you still taking that medication, Plavix?
yes.
Oh, okay. All right. And then what about have you ever had cancer?
No,
Okay. And then do you take anything for your blood sugar for diabetes?
no, I'm not diabetic.
You're not diabetic. Any lung disease? Do you have any lung issues that require you to use an inhaler or oxygen?
No, I'm good there.
Okay. And then besides, I know you had the heart attack with the stents. Besides that, in the last 5 years, have you had any other surgeries or any procedures, or have you been hospitalized?
No, I haven't had anything, but I do use the CPAP machine at night because they said that that was part of the reason why I had a heart attack.
Oh, okay. So you have sleep apnea?
Hmm.
Oh, okay. All right. Not a problem. Some CPAP machines, they have it hooked up to an oxygen tank. Does yours hook up to an oxygen tank, or does it just oxygenize the air that's naturally there?
No, it's just a like a machine that kind of like a generator.
Okay, so there's no oxygen tank that's hooked to it.
No,
Okay, and then what about other medications? Are there any other medications that you're taking?
baby aspirin.
Okay, so at this point, what I'll do is I'll get Jimmy to Jimmy, why don't you just grab your medicines? Let's take a look at them. Jimmy will go grab his igloo cooler or his basket full of drugs. And guys, we'll just tell me how you do it, Jimmy. But man, I just start writing everything down.
Exactly.
Like and like I don't pretend like nothing's a big deal, even if it's like the baby aspirin. I'll write everything down because I want to look professional. I want to look like I'm on my A game, and I want to look like like I'm a field underwriter. Like I'm there. I'm the dude that's going to get this guy approved. So, Jimmy, can you tell me a little bit about how you do it?
Um, Pretty much the same way, Joe. I mean, I'll ask the questions that you've already asked. Um, the one thing I do different, I kind of try to cover some areas. So, like, I'll start with the heart, and then I'll move to cancer, like you did,
Okay.
and then I'll ask about like respiratory, like just like you did, and then I'll also ask if they're a smoker or non-smoker. Um, I usually say tobacco or non-tobacco user. That's usually how I phrase it.
Okay.
And then I'll ask about the diabetes. By the way, a lot of people will say that they're pre-diabetic, right? So make sure you follow up with, are you taking any medication? Because that's the real, that's the real answer. Because if the doctor classified them as pre-diabetic and they're taking metformin as an example, the underwriter for the insurance company is just going to classify them as being diabetic. So just know that, so it's not so much about what the doctor says, it's how the underwriter views it. So if they're on medication, then they're considered diabetic. And then,
You know what? That's a good point. There's
mm,
there's you're either diabetic or you're not, you
right.
know? So If they're taking metformin, they're diabetic. Now don't argue with them. If they say, "Well, I'm pre-diabetic," oh, okay. Are you taking any prescriptions, or just is it controlled just by diet and exercise? No, the doctor gave me some pills. Don't tell them. Well, then if you're on metformin, then you're diabetic. Don't argue with them. Just agree with them.
Hmm. And then I'll ask them about their organs. I'll say, like, have you had any trouble with your kidney, with your liver, any problems with your pancreas, stuff like that, and then just let them answer.
You kind of
I'll
hit
ask them
all the major organs in the body.
right. I'll ask them if they ever had Hep C, um, and really just kind of go through that. And then finally, I'll end with, have you had any what we call mental health? Do you have any issues with, either being bipolar, having schizophrenia, or Alzheimer's or dementia? So then I'll talk about that, and you'll be surprised at how many people will say they have, one of those. And then that's really about it. Then I go through the medications like you, Joe. When
Yep.
I'm going through the medications, if it doesn't say so on the bottle what it's for, I ask them, and what do you take this for? And what's this for? Sometimes people will have a list. I love it when they have a list. They're all organized. They got a list of all their meds and what they're for.
Yeah.
So,
And a lot of people will if you just ask for it.
hmm
If not, then just Google it. Um, you can find out and then check for the ones that have dual use. What I have found, Jimmy, is that a lot of times somebody may have high blood pressure, but they could be on 2 to 3 different medications to control high blood pressures. And high blood pressure medicine is notorious for also treating heart arrhythmia or sometimes even congestive heart failure. So you really got to be careful on that one. Another one that sometimes can be tricky is when they're on a diuretic for water retention. Maybe they're getting sometimes pretty common with diabetics is that they get water retention in their lower extremities, like their feet and ankles, and a lot of times that medication will come up as a congestive heart failure medicine as well. So when it's a dual use medicine, just make sure that you're making sure, especially on that diuretic, make sure, say, oh, well, like what I'll do is I'll Google it and say, oh, so now this medication also came up. It says it treats congestive heart failure. Jimmy, do you have congested? Have you ever been told that you have congestive heart failure? Well, no, it's just my ankles are swollen. Oh, okay. I'm going to write myself a note there about that. And then I'm going to ask, are there any other medications, Jimmy, that maybe that you were taking a couple years ago that you stopped taking? Because I want to find out, if there's a prescription that they were taking but they just stopped. Because
that's a
the
very good point, Joe.
the underwriters, they have a 2-year look back on medications. So Jimmy could have been taking, I don't know, what's a good example. Could have been something maybe for irregular heartbeat or congestive heart failure or something else, and then you either the doctors ordered it or you stopped taking it. I've had clients that just on their own just stop taking medication sometimes. And then lastly, I just want to ask Jimmy, are there any other medical conditions that you can think of that we haven't talked about?
I have arthritis. That's about it.
What do you take for your arthritis?
Ibuprofen and tramadol.
Okay. Is your do you know, is your arthritis, is it osteo or rheumatoid arthritis?
I think they says osteo
Okay.
arthritis.
Yeah, and then how are you still able to get around okay? Yeah? Did I lose you? Jimmy, are you still there? I think I might have lost you, or I lost myself. Let's see here. Guys, I think Jimmy might have dropped off the call. So we'll go ahead. I'll keep looking for him. So you want to kind of go through these questions. So what you've noticed is that uh, um, the technique that we're using, but we're asking these questions in a very conversational type way. The one thing I didn't bring up is that when I transition into health questions, I always have the application out. So I'm bringing up that, like, I'll have, like, so when I transition into health questions and I'm asking that first question, Jimmy, I know this maybe seems silly, but I'm required to ask, do you currently reside in a nursing home? I'm actually reading that off of, in this example, the Mutual of Omaha application, which I will show you. I'll go ahead and transition into that now. I have this. This is not the whole app. This is just the health questions. So you can see here, question number one is that it asks if they're currently bedridden, hospitalized, or in a nursing home. Okay. So what I do and what Jimmy does when you're a little bit more experienced, or even in the beginning, you want to knock out the big health questions first. Okay, because if you find out right in the beginning that, as an example, your client's on oxygen, or they're receiving treatment for kidney dialysis, as an example, maybe they have dementia or Alzheimer's, you can still go through all the other questions, but that's the flag that you now know that client, you have to go straight to guaranteed issue. So typically in the beginning, I'm not asking, in the pre-qualification part, I'm not asking every single question on the application verbatim, but as you can tell by asking all those big questions, heart attack, stroke, cancer, lung disease, diabetes, mental health, all in finding out what medications that they're on, you're doing a good job of field underwriting to determine which is going to be the best carrier. Okay, let me just see if Jimmy was able to hop back on. Go through, give me 1 second. Okay, and Jimmy, are you there? It says he's offline. I think I might have just unmuted his dad. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and just and continue with the call. So the other thing is that you can also utilize the cheat sheet as well. Okay, this is the cheat sheet. Now the thing about the cheat sheet is that what I'm going to tell you is that it's not perfect. Jimmy, are you back on? Looks like you're back on. All right. Okay. So with the cheat sheet, guys, it's just a reference, okay? It's not perfect. I put a lot of time and effort into this, but it's not 100%. What I tell for new agents, and one of the reasons why I'm a big advocate for new agents to go with Mutual of Omaha, is because you can do the paper application, which is super easy. And while you're in the home, you can go ahead and do the phone interview, and you can get the answer while you're there. So this makes it really, really simple for a new person. So if the client, if it comes back, and let's say you had answers to no to everything, but Mutual of Omaha comes back with a decline, or they come back with, well, we can only offer graded, as long as you had the client sign the, I forget what the page is called, but it's the medical authorization form, and you have it signed, is that you can find out why it went from graded, or maybe it was declined, and then you can make that determination if maybe you need to go to another carrier. Let's see, Jimmy, are you back online? Try it here. Self-muted. Give me 1 second. Jimmy, it looks like you may be self-muted. Go through here. Okay, as far as I know, Jimmy, on my end, I've got you unmuted, so you should be good to go. So that's one of the reasons why we recommend for new agents to lead. One of the reasons why we recommend leading with Mutual of Omaha, because you can get that decision right then and there. And typically, if you get a negative decision, you can find out why. Then you can transition, and then you can utilize your cheat sheet to see if maybe you can put them with Transamerica or maybe another carrier that may be a little bit more lenient with a certain thing. With the cheat sheet, as you can see here, let me get a highlighter here. Give me 1 second to get this. And Jimmy, it sounds like I can hear you in the background. Are you there? Okay. As an example, we're talking about Mutual of Omaha here. Issue ages between 45 and 85. So right here, you can look like, as an example, for heart attack. This is kind of hard to see. Let me get.
Well, it came back on. We had a power outage, Joe.
Really? Wow.
But I was trying to get it back on and realized it came back on right now. So.
Well, good to have you back, man. Must be the heat out there.
Oh, I don't know what it is, but we're back on.
As an example, guys, you can utilize the the cheat sheet to help you determine which carrier is going to be the best fit. So, as an example, when I was interviewing Jimmy, he had indicated that he had had a heart attack, but it was 5 years ago. So I'm going to look at a heart attack right here. I can see if it was over 2 years ago. Look, right here, Mutual of Omaha. I can get him level benefit. He had heart surgery, but it was over 5 years ago. It's a level benefit. The CPAP, which I don't have on here, but Mutual of Omaha is CPAP friendly. I can be able to get him covered with that. Now, once I go through this and I've determined their eligibility, okay, now in this case with Jimmy, it was pretty easy. I really didn't have to utilize the cheat sheet because he seems to be in good health, and the episode that he had was over 5 years ago. So it's a slam dunk for level benefit through Mutual of Omaha. But what I will do, guys, is that after I've done the premiums, once you've clarified what they're going to qualify for, that's when you transition into your 3-option worksheet. Once I've closed Jimmy on the 3-option worksheet and we've identified which program he's going to go with, what face amount, what he's comfortable with as far as premiums, I'm going to go ahead and lock in the rest of my application. I'm going to get my premium information. Then I'm just going to make sure, I'm going to double check, and I'm going to make sure I didn't miss anything. And this is when I'm going to go back through and I'm going to ask all the questions I might have missed on the application, because as agents, we are required and we are responsible to ask every single question the way it is written on the application. So I'm going to do that before I do my phone interview, just to double check, just to make sure I didn't miss anything. So here, and I'm going to go through here really quick, and I'm going to read everything to him just to make sure. Once I've gone through all the health questions that are on the application and my application is complete and I've gotten my signatures, then that's when I'm going to call into Mutual of Omaha and I'm going to do the aptical and I'm going to do the phone interview. Okay. And how it works is that I'm going to first um, introduce myself to Aptical. I'm going to tell them who I am, what state I am, what product, the carrier. It's going to be United of Omaha. It's the Living Promise, Final Expense. This is the state. They probably going to ask you for your writing number a lot of times. Make sure you have your writing number available. And then you're going to give them all the client information, and then they're going to get the client on the phone. They're going to read a disclosure that all the answers that they're going to give are truthful. Then they're going to verbatim. They're going to read every single question on the application. This is where you need to do a good job of kind of prepping your client as far as you want to prep them as far as how the phone interview is going to go. I've already reviewed your questions. Just make sure you answer the same, and and if you do that, then typically your phone interview will go pretty smooth. You want to coach your clients on not how to answer the questions, but coach them on the process of the application, and they should have already answered no to everything. Jimmy, anything else you feel like at this point that we're missing on the field underwriting, or transitioning from asking the health questions to the application? Oh, we might have lost Jimmy again. Another must be having a heat wave out there in San Antonio. So guys, now at this point, if you were to get an answer that was yes in the first section of Mutual of Omaha, then chances are it's going to be a decline everywhere else. So how it works with the underwriting with Mutual of Omaha, as you can see here, it's broken down into sections. You have part one of the underwriting, and then you have part two. If they answer yes to any of these questions right here in part one, it's an automatic decline. You cannot go any further. If the proposed answers yes, well, it says right here, if the proposed answer yes to any questions in part two, the person is eligible only for the graded benefit. So guys, as long as you can get through this section here, and you answer no to everything in section one, they can answer yes to all, well, potentially they can answer yes to all the questions in part two and potentially still get coverage under the graded. What you will find is that Mutual of Omaha has one of the most competitive graded products out there. It does still have a 2-year waiting period, but it is price-wise, it is still super competitive. What I recommend is that before you automatically put someone into a graded product, just double check what they're answering yes to, and see if potentially they could get qualified for a level somewhere else. Let me just give you some examples here. In part, so we're assuming we answered no to everything in part two. Let's see here. Diabetes before age 50. Or with any complications like neuropathy. So as an example, what you'll find is with Mutual of Omaha, as long as their diabetes was diagnosed after the age of 50, they're pretty lenient. They could even be insulin dependent diabetic, but still get a level benefit. They just can't have like complications like neuropathy as an example. So just as an example, if I have a client that was diagnosed at age 45 with diabetes, I'm probably not going to go Mutual of Omaha. Probably go Transamerica with that client. Here's if they have Hep C, they can still get graded with a lot of carriers. If they have Hep C or they've been diagnosed with Hep C, it's an automatic decline. You can still get them covered. You can still get them graded with Mutual of Omaha. Chronic lung disease like COPD. So if you can get them coverage with Mutual with COPD, but it won't be same day coverage. So again, if someone has COPD, you may want to consider using Transamerica, as long as they don't have a lot of other health issues, like being insulin dependent diabetic or something like that. Cancer, they do have a 4-year look back, 2-year look back on coronary artery disease or heart attack, any type of bypass, stroke, or TIA. 2 years. This doesn't come up very often, especially with the senior, but Mutual of Omaha does ask about being convicted of a felony or waiting for felony charges, and they do ask about treatment for drug and alcohol. I will tell you this, Transamerica does not ask these questions about felony, drugs, alcohol, or driving record, like reckless driving. So it doesn't happen that often, but sometimes I have been caught where I've asked all the health questions, and then I got the client locked in on the premiums, and I'm finalizing my application, and I find out they have like multiple DUIs. Okay, well, that just knocks them out of the Mutual of Omaha. Very simply, I would just transition into Transamerica in that case. So when all else fails, and the other thing I wanted to mention is that what's great about writing final expense business is that the application itself, it is the underwriting guideline. So how you know when you should transition from one carrier to the next is only when you get a yes to an answer. So as an example, here's kind of a simple way to do it. If you get a yes in section 1, they're almost always going to have to go guaranteed issue. Okay? If you get a yes in section 2, look at why they answered yes, transition over to look at the Transamerica application, see if potentially they could get preferred or standard through Transamerica. If not, if it's going to be graded with Transamerica, just stick with the graded with Mutual of Omaha. Their graded product is a much better product than the Transamerica graded. So that's how you kind of easily toggle back and forth. And if you got to go guaranteed issue, my recommendation, just write Gerber. It's an easy application. You can either do a paper application, you can even do it on your phone. Just download the application, you can do the quote, and then you can just from you don't even need a tablet. From your phone, you can transition from quote to application utilizing Gerber. And of course, make sure that when you go into the house, make sure that you have your cheat sheet and that you're utilizing your cheat sheet. And when all else fails, if you're not sure, call the carrier. Call Mutual of Omaha, talk to an underwriter, call Transamerica, talk to an underwriter, get a risk assessment right there on the phone. Or call me, call Jimmy, call your upline manager, and let us kind of point you in the right direction. And then if we really need to double check, just call the carrier. And that's one of the beautiful things about doing final expense business is that the majority of the business that we write is between the hours of 9 to 5 when the insurance companies are open. So it's very easy just to call the carrier, get a risk assessment, and then figure out which way to go. So guys, with that, I hope this call has been helpful, been insightful. There's actually, by the way, there's 3 pages to the cheat sheet. It covers heart attack, heart surgery, stroke, congestive heart failure, irregular heartbeat, pacemaker, COPD, oxygen use, Alzheimer's, dementia, bipolar disease, Parkinson's, cerebral palsy, multiple sclerosis. Covers diabetes in detail, kidney dialysis, internal cancer, systemic lupus, wheelchair use, blood thinner use, and then which carriers require height and weight questions, and whether or not there's a phone interview either required or is it recommended. Okay, so with that, guys, thank you very much for plugging into today's call. It was Field Underwriting Simplified. If you have any questions pertaining to the information that was provided on this call, please give me a call. Be more than happy to have a conversation with you. Everybody have a great weekend. God bless and take care.